The point of this presentation is to get you to start thinking about the abolitionists as perhaps the most important element of the antebellum reform movements that came out of the market revolution, and particularly to understand at least one dimension of the slavery controversy as a war of images, and within that to see a certain failure of the imagination, a certain inability to imagine racial equality in the United States. So, in a harbinger of modern public relations techniques, centrally organized associations of abolitionists used the lecture circuit, the petition campaign, and above all, the printing press to spread their messages. They also employed, opponents complained, sensational images and pictures to inflame the passions of the multitude. So you can see on the right here the sort of illustrations that abolitionists use. These are all taken from the American Anti-Slavery Almanac for 1840. And they're woodcuts, which is a form of printing in which the image is carved onto a block of wood, and then the ink is coated on the wood, and the areas that have been gouged out are white, and the areas that remain unaffected show up black. So this is a way to put images into a black and white newspaper. And this is all in the mid 1830s, and using the same technology, the steam-driven printing presses that the penny press, the cheap newspapers, the sensationalized newspapers were using in this same decade of the 1830s. So using that technology, the American Anti-Slavery Society distributed more than 1 million pieces of literature in 1835 alone, nearly 10 times the number distributed the year before. Studying postal rates and regulations to minimize costs and avoid seizures, abolitionists sent 20,000 tracts to leading citizens of the South. Because you can imagine if you're a slaveholder and you get in the U.S. mail this inflammatory material, you're not going to be real happy about it. So I've divided up the images here just to give you a sense of what the argument is. So, of course, just the brutality and the immorality and the callousness of slavery is something that the abolitionists harped on continually. Slaveholders like to say that the plantation was somehow one big family, but abolitionists were at pains to show, well, that wasn't exactly true, was it? Because children were being sold away from their parents, from their mothers. Again, just to make the larger point, slaveholders complained that low prices and uses of images and pictures created these powerful and permanent visual impressions that inflamed the opinions of women, children, and uneducated men. So you see, the issue with the images is you don't even have to be able to read. You don't even have to be literate. You don't have to have more than 5 seconds to just look at the picture, and you get the point. So maybe it helps to have the caption here showing how slavery improves the condition of the female sex. But you don't need to read that to see, oh, wow, look. Not only are men whipping women, but women are also, white women are also becoming brutalized by the process, by the system, by the institution. One incredulous anti-abolitionist, so these are slaveholders who are outraged by the abolitionist campaigns, read off the prices. It's the prices that drove them crazy. Human rights, 25 cents per annum, so you could subscribe for a quarter a year. Anti-slavery record, $1.50 per 100 issues. Emancipator, or not issues, but per 100 copies. Emancipator, 50 cents per year. Slave's Friend, a single number, 1 cent. And here again, attacking the immorality of the institution of slavery and in its family relations. A pregnant woman or a young mother in the field and not being able to take care of her child. Image of, and not a flattering one, an image of the slave family under slavery. And then just the vicious brutality. So the branding of slaves was an issue that the abolitionists brought to the forefront. The hunting down of escaped slaves. Slaveholders like to say that the slaves were actually quite contented. Well, abolitionists countered, why did they risk their lives to run away? uh, this just horrible brutality, burning. Well, this I think this is actually the burning of an abolitionist. So this is the execution of an abolitionist. So the brutality of Southern society, and then the worst of the worst, just this sadism of cutting up a human being just because you can, because you own them, because they're your property. Although this something like this was illegal. Other arguments were simply about the efficiency of the economic system. So this image is meant to suggest, boy, you pay your laborers, they're going to really dig into it. They're going to really go at the labor. Unpaid labor will work as inefficiently as possible. And then mocking the paternalism of the slaveholders, that, oh, we give care and guidance and leadership to our slaves. They would starve without us. I think this one is pretty telling. The white master and his wife are saying poor things that can't even take care of themselves, while they are actually the only ones in the image here who are doing any work. And in fact, they're doing skilled work here, right? This isn't just mindless labor. And then I find this one in some ways the most interesting. In the end, the abolitionists and the Republicans picked this up. In the end, the abolitionists argued that slavery just made for an inferior society from top to bottom. So our peculiar domestic institutions wasn't just the labor system, but it gave a whole tone and color to the Southern society. So the murders, the lynching, the gambling at the table in the beginning, the mob actions up on the hill, the fighting between whites on the left, and then on the far on the right, on the bottom right, the fighting among whites, the dueling, right? This whole bit about honor and so on. And then on the far left, I think, is just some again sadistic torturing of a slave. So this is an indictment of an entire society. And then the abolitionists did not neglect to attack the northern states for allowing slavery to continue, and indeed for helping slavery to be a viable institution by returning fugitive slaves. So here's a northerners, here's a southern slaveholder trying to recapture his slave and telling the dogs, with the collars saying Ohio and Illinois, telling the dogs to do our work for us, go get them. And here's, again, northerners who are giving black Christians free seats, but they're up in the balcony. And the mayor of New York refusing a certain occupation, a cartman's license to a colored man. So the northern states had things to be answered for as well. Northern hospitality, the New York 9 months law, slave steps out of a slave state and his chains fall. A free state with another chain stands ready to re-enslave him. So the last part of this, then, I just wanted to kind of broaden it and to suggest what I'm saying about the failure of the imagination. I mean, a lot of these are very even-handed, I guess you'd have to say, but the slaves, and what would you expect? I mean, the slaves are always in this inferior position, this dependent position. Maybe this is the one. Which one there? Maybe the most attractive one is, where did I miss that? Sorry. The one where he says poor, oh, they can't, this one. Maybe this is really the most respectful image of African American slaves in the period. So I'm raising the question of, well, white abolitionists, and I should quickly make the point that black abolitionists were very crucial to the whole process. In fact, it was black abolitionists who radicalized William Lloyd Garrison, the most famous of the white abolitionists. But could white abolitionists really imagine equality for the races? And so do you talk about things from our past that are relevant to the future, relevant to our own day and age? This is certainly one. So I'm taking some arguments and some images and